everyone. I'm Tom Walsh, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2018 Jesuit Sports Hall of Fame selection show. We've got 4 incredible Jesuit Sports Hall of Famers that we're going to unveil via the miracle of the internet to the Jesuit community. And we're starting off with our first Hall of Famer today, coming to us all the way via the miracle of Skype from Maui, the 50th state in Hawaii, where he's currently on vacation with his family. Let me welcome Dicko Bufkin from the Jesuit class of 1995. Dicko, a great lacrosse player. Congratulations. You're a Jesuit Hall of Famer, and I'm excited to talk to you today.
Thank you very much, Tom. It's an honor to be here.
Well, you know, when I was talking to the alumni director, Sean McMullen, about you, you know, one thing he tried to put into perspective for me was that you literally were one of the key foundational pieces of this lacrosse program here at Jesuit, a program that won the state championship in 2016. You, of course, were a member of the, I believe, the second lacrosse team ever in the history of Jesuit College Prep. You came out as a freshman. I think there was only 23 players on your team. By the time your sophomore year came, that number had more than tripled. You're at 75 or so players. Talk about what it was that drew you to lacrosse, which was at that time a fledgling program here at Jesuit.
I had a bit of an advantage on everybody else. That when I was a kid growing up, I went to summer camp in Colorado at Blue Mountain Ranch in Florissant, Colorado. And lacrosse was an activity like archery or canoeing or what have you. And I got to it pretty quickly. And I remember very clearly calling my mom saying, "You've got to go buy me a lacrosse stick." And she had no idea what that was. And she went all over town to every Oshman's in town and couldn't find anyone. And finally, we got a counselor to buy me one that was in from a shop in Colorado. And so from a very early age, 3 of us that went to camp together, we had lacrosse sticks. And so maybe twice a year, we would get together in someone's backyard and throw it around. But at a very early age, starting at, I think, 9 years old, I started playing. And so for a month every summer, I would play. And then when we were signing up for Jesuit, it said that there was a lacrosse program. And my mother and I kind of looked at each other like, whoa, where did this come from? When did lacrosse get to Dallas? And it had just been the year before. And so I remember showing up for the first day and going to pick up a ground ball with one hand, and all of them yelling at me, "You got to have 2 hands on the stick." And from there, you know, I put in a lot of work to make sure that my stick skills were pretty good. And that first class, these gentlemen that brought it to the school, Tom Tenervin, Gene Blossom, Trey Reeder, those guys were really the guys that I looked up to. For the first couple of years before they graduated. They were 2 years ahead of me. And they were the ones that really brought it to the sport, to the school. And because of the foundation that I was able to help them establish, the sport grew very, very quickly. And there was something really interesting that happened my freshman year is that we had what was called Issues Days. And that year was a Native American theme. And so those gentlemen that I just referenced, they put together a curriculum for the week. So every day we had kids go watch a video and learn about the history of the sport and a little bit about it. And then they came out and watched us play for 5 or 6 minutes. And like you said, to 75 kids. And then I think the year after that, it was like 95 kids came out to play, and it grew. And it was a great honor to be a part of that growth. And all of my friends that we played with, we did a lot to keep the interest up and to keep the energy up. But at Jesuit, the sports energy level is always really high. So it was a pretty native thing for it to progress the way that it did.
I really enjoyed listening to your answer about the modest way you said, you know, I got pretty good at my stick skills. I think that's an understatement. You were one of a remarkable player in the Jesuit lacrosse program history, and I want to talk about some of the highlights from your time here at Jesuit. That freshman year, when there's only 23 players on the team, your team had 9 games, you went 7-2, and you scored 8 goals. pretty darn good for a freshman. Your sophomore year, 75 kids with 1 varsity and 2 JV teams. You led the team in scoring with 42 goals, second on the team in points, all conference, all state as a sophomore. Your junior year, you led the team in scoring with 60 goals, a captain, all conference, all state, Dallas area division champ. You started receiving a lot of interest and offers from D1 schools in the lacrosse area. You were invited to attend the prestigious Top 205 camp in Baltimore, Maryland. And this is, I thought, was pretty amazing. The first Texan to be invited to that prestigious camp. And Jesuit made it to the state semifinals. And then your senior year, you'll help lead the team to the state quarterfinals. You were a finalist for All-American. You were All-State, All-Conference, 42 goals, captain again. And this is something that in the 20 years I've been associated with this wonderful institution, I've never known a player to have done. You were a player coach as a senior on that team. So a remarkable career, Dicko. Congratulations. And I wanted to be sure and mention those incredible accolades. Let's jump into your senior year. How did you become a player coach while you were still a student here at Jesuit?
We had a fabulous coach with a fabulous job, and it required him to go to Kazakhstan, I believe, to build a railroad over marsh. And he needed to be gone for a couple months. And we had another father that was helping coach, but for a bit there, I was a player, a captain, and a lot of times taking on the coaching role, especially right before the game and at halftime, making sure that our direction was right and our motivation was right. But our coach, Tony Kemi, he was fabulous. And I still today cannot remember any coach with as much energy as he brought. And all of the volunteering time that he brought to the program in its early days cannot go discounted. That he was also a tremendous force in the growth of the sport in lacrosse and in the Dallas area. And, you know, when you think back on your life, there's always these unique periods of time where you're either in the right place at the wrong time, at the right time, or whatever it may be. And that was one of those situations where he had to have been gone to do something outstanding. And I was in the position to lead for a while. And it really served me very well having that experience and that responsibility into college and after college and coaching young men.
Well, that's just remarkable. Again, the only time I've ever heard of that, and I checked with some of my good friends here at Jesuit, and none of us were aware of any other young man that was a student at Jesuit ever having that incredible honor of being a player and a coach. And obviously, your coach, as you said, had a great reason not to be here, and obviously you hold him in very high esteem. And I know he helped mold.
Tom, there's one other point about that.
Yes,
real quickly,
please.
That experience goes to show the infancy of lacrosse in Dallas at that time. The reason that's only happened once is because this was a brand new sport to the entire area. And professional coaches and D1 All-Americans like we have now, that didn't exist back then. It was just a bunch of for the sport trying to make it work, trying to make it all happen. So it was a unique time in history, especially for the game and Texas lacrosse.
You know, I mentioned earlier, Dicko, that the lacrosse program won the state championship in 2016. They also repeated in 2017 as really one of the pillars, foundational pieces that helped get this program underway. Back in, your graduating year, of course, was 95. You started earlier as a freshman. What did it mean to you when you heard that Jesuit not only put one state championship on the board, but put them up back to back?
I remember very clearly getting on the phone with about 10 of my friends, and we were like, well, they finally did it. We did it. We won. I watched, a good portion of it streaming, and everyone's sending me the highlights and the amount of emails that I got that day and Facebook messages, et cetera, to make sure that I had seen the news. It really touched me personally. But I was not surprised at all. I'm in the lacrosse world nationwide. And when I tell people, they're like, well, where'd you go to high school? I'm like, Jesuit. They're like, oh, that is one heck of a program. I'm like, absolutely it is. So it was a very proud day, right? Just to be a Ranger, right? Not anything personally, just the fact that Jesuit won another state championship in any sport, right? So we have such a great community, and so when that happened, we're like, oh, here we go. And then another one happened. We're like, all right, let's see how far they can take this. Just keep winning. And so, nationwide, this conversation kind of comes up relatively frequently for me. They're like, oh, you went to Jesuit? Like, that's a great program. So there's a lot of pride.
Well, I can imagine there must be. Now, Dicko, I want to talk more about Jesuit, but I want to chronologically talk about some of your other great accomplishments. You left Jesuit, you went up to Colorado College in Colorado Springs, one of the most beautiful places in the United States. I'm sure you would agree.
Absolutely.
You played great 4 years. Goals as a freshman, 44 goals in a game. These are records that you held at Colorado College. 44 goals as a freshman, 9 goals in one game, 62 goals in a season, 4th on the all-time points list. You won the Rocky Mountain Intercollegiate Lacrosse League Championship as a freshman. As a freshman, you won the Hustle Award for the way that you played the game. You were MVP sophomore, junior, and senior year in college, captain your senior year, and you never missed a game in all 4 years. I like to try to memorize these things, Dicko, but I have to look at my notes because you had so many. I didn't want to miss any. How did Jesuit prepare you for college, not just in lacrosse, but also academically?
I always tell people that college was easy, right? I went to a good school. It wasn't an easy school. And I tell everyone that we were so prepared. We knew how to study. We knew how to break things down. We knew how to think. That college was easy because you realize that if you just do the work, if you just do the homework, if you just study, if you do these simple things that are part of the equation, it makes life really easy. And I was fortunate to go to college with another gentleman that went to Jesuit, Matt Good. And the two of us very, very quickly saw we are prepared for this and we're ready. So, Jesuit, from an academic standpoint, made college extremely easy. Um, from a personal and athletic perspective, Jesuit gave me the confidence to know that if I'm going to put in the work, it's going to happen. It's all going to be there, but I've got to put in the work. It's not. No one's giving me anything. And when I think about Jesuit, the first thing that always comes to my mind is the mom, and I try to carry myself that way every day. And when I'm coaching kids today, I'm talking to them about this. I'm like, don't be a jerk, right? Go help your teammate out. Be a man for others. And that motto, I've really taken to heart, and I try to live that way every day.
Well, you've obviously, in your post-collegiate career, you have led young men on the high school level in Northern California. You were the Northern California High School Coach of the Year in 2001. Again, it all started at Jesuit, the success that you were able to have on the collegiate level, on the high school level as a coach.
When you're growing up and coaches and you have a successful year, I can't tell you how many times I hear coaches say that, you'll never know how much this means to me as a coach. And I remember thinking, we're the ones who just did all of it. And then I became a high school varsity coach. I had the honor to coach that team with 2 guys that I went to college with. And we had great chemistry and great parents and great kids. And that was by far the most significant year of my career, is not as a player, but as a coach. And I think that was a lot of a culmination of confidence and experience and and having the right environment of parents and players and my 2 best friends to coach with. And we had a blast, and it was very successful. And like I said, it was by far the most significant year or season of my career.
Dicko, one question I want to ask before we end what has been a thoroughly enjoyable interview for me. And I love to ask this to all of the Hall of Famers that I get to have the pleasure of doing this interview with when they are unveiled to the Jesuit community. Tell me about the call. How did you find out that you were a Jesuit Sports Hall of Famer?
Mike Cleary. Mike Cleary was a phenomenal basketball player and tennis player, and a man for others, right? He's the man. He's just the nicest, kindest guy, and he called me, and I was kind of a smart aleck, and I was like, what do you want, money? And he's like, no, Jimmy Archie is on the phone with me also, and I grew up with Jimmy, and Jimmy's brother and I grew up. I've known Jimmy since I was 3 years old, and I had a long day, and I was a little snarky, and then he said Jimmy Archie's on the phone. I just kind of sat down and put my hand on my head like this, and my wife is sitting there. I'm in the kitchen. She looks at me. She's like, "What's going on?" And obviously those two guys that they were so welcoming and kind, and we're so glad to have you, and you deserve this, and then you got to take a step back and cry for a second, and it is a conversation I'll never forget. And Mike is such a great guy, but to have Jimmy on that call, a guy that I looked up to my entire life, right? So I'm 3 years old at preschool, and he's in second grade, and we go the whole way through till he graduates or whatever those numbers were. To have him on that call really meant a lot.
Well, they're two of my favorites. They're both Jesuit Sports Hall of Famers. Mike Cleary, Jimmy Archie. As you said, great basketball player, and Mike Cleary. Jimmy, great football player up at Princeton. I'm sure it was a wonderful phone call that you'll always, always cherish. Dicko, congratulations. I'm looking forward to seeing you on May 5th, 2018 at the Terry Center for the Blue Gold Banquet with the Jesuit Sports Hall of Famers. You'll get your blue blazer. I look forward to seeing you there, and I can't thank you enough for sitting down with us from Maui, Hawaii, taking some time out of your vacation to record this interview with us. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Tom. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll have more interviews with our Jesuit Sports Hall of Famers. Click on the button and watch them.